Squirrels are fun to watch gather nuts. Squirrel! So let's have some fun and paint one. Take your spray bottle, spray your pans of paint, and put some water in your palette. In this lesson, I do use a model, so here is my photograph that I refer to. Pick up your liner brush and let's start with some yellow ochre. And what's nice with watercolor is you want to always start with your lightest layer, and you can use a light wash almost like a sketch. I like doing it that way versus using a pencil and eraser because it will make a difference on the paper. So let's start and put the squirrel about in the middle of the page. And we're going to start with the ear of the little squirrel. So here's the ear. And then let's come down and around for the face. And then there's that part. I'm going to leave a space here and put a nut later on. Now let's continue down the back of the squirrel. And then his back curls. And comes down like this. Now this squirrel, they have the cutest little tail, I think. And it's, to me, resembles the letter S. So I'm starting right here and just going to make an S and bring it here like that. That's the start of the tail of the squirrel. Okay, so right here is the hand coming down from the squirrel. And it's holding a nut. And you're going to see that there's a finger there, and they're showing 4 fingers. So I'm sketching in 4 fingers and then bring the hand down here. Dab that. Don't like that line, so I'm going to dab it out a little bit. I want to bring that a little further back like that. And then bring that arm around because he's hunching on, nibbling on that little nut. And then here starts his hind leg. And then down here is his feet. And you don't have to worry about making every little detail. You can kind of make the impression of the feet. So there's the impression of the feet, and then come back up here to the back of the tail. Now there's the sketch that I can make out what we're going to do for our squirrel. I'm taking my liner brush and softening the line and spreading the paint. So just dip your liner brush in your jar of water and dip your brush, and then go ahead and wet your line to soften it where it needs it. That's looking pretty good. Now, around the eye of the squirrel, it's a light white. And I'm going to take my paper towel here and make it into a little circle and put a white, kind of white out an area like that. Did a little too much, but I can just take my brush and reshape it a little bit like that. Okay, that's pretty good. I like the start of my squirrel. So next, let's work on adding some of the color. Now this is a gray squirrel, and so we need to make some gray. But first I want to put some underlining color. When I look at a gross gray, sometimes you still see some browns. And I like to use some of my burnt sienna here. So I have a little bit yellow ochre here, and I'm just going to add some burnt sienna to that. And then go ahead and put some on the hind leg here and spread that. And then continue that up the arm and the back. Along here. We need to put some on the tail. I like that combination of the yellow ochre and the burnt sienna. Put some more here. Spread that color. Some up on the tail. And with the tail, I don't like to make it one shape, just some straggling wisp of fur striking out. Kind of like that. That's looking pretty good. Okay. Need a little bit more up on the back here. A little bit more around the face. Okay. Now let's stop and give it a good dry. Okay, now let's do the eye. It's going to be about right here where we put that white spot. Now it's really dark, so we need to make our dark color, which we use our ultramarine blue and burnt umber. And the squirrel's eyes are fairly big. And we want to leave a white spot. There's a white reflection on the eye. So start about right here and leave a white part like that. That's looking pretty good. Okay. Now let's take our brush. You can dip it in some water and add some burnt sienna on our palette here. And that's going to change the color a little bit. I want to water it down. And that's a little bit even too strong there. So what I'm going to do is, with this color that I have here, I want to add some white because I want it more of a gray, not a black. And just add some white here. I want to dab that. It's a little too dark. It's okay. And start putting some of those gray hairs on the squirrel. And I want to leave some of the lighter brown color. Just put some up here, some on the ear. Some over here. Over here, spread some of that color. Some over here. To make a little more here. Just adding some white on my color that I have here. Need some more on the arm here. Up. And some on the tail here. All the way down. Okay, I want to stop and work on the nut. And part of the reason I do that is I can let some of this gray dry, except I see here I want to spread some of this gray very carefully around the eye and leave a lighter space around the eye. That's looking better. Soften a little bit some of this. All right. Okay, let's work on the nut. We're going to make this an acorn nut. So take your burnt sienna, and here's the top of that nut. And then rinse your brush a little bit and take some burnt umber. We'll make the bottom of the nut. The bottom of the nut is a little darker. Now let's stop and give that a good dry. We're going to work on the mouth here, and I don't want the colors to run. So to avoid that, I'm going to dry it. Okay, so the squirrel's nose is here and it's dark, so I want to use my burnt umber. I'm just using straight burnt umber here. I'm just putting his nose right there. And then I'm taking my brush and adding some water and just spreading a little bit of that color around the cheek. Like that. And I want to make the nut come up to his mouth, so I'm going to extend that. I'm just wetting the paint, and that's spreading it. Like that. Just wetting my brush and adding a longer stem like that. Now the color faded a little bit on that nut there. I want to add that back in there, and that's easy to do. Just like that. Put a little bit there. Okay, I'm going to let that kind of sit. Can always come back to it. And I think I need to add some more gray. So I'm going to make some more of that color. Again, it's burnt umber and the ultramarine blue and some white. That's looking pretty good. And I like to just do some strokes, because fur, it's not really a solid color. It's many little lines. Now, to put some more on the foot here. On the back part of the squirrel, it's darker. And so I have some of the dark color here. It's a little more on the brown side, but that's okay. There's kind of a shadow casting on the back here. So let's darken that. And add a little bit of that on the tail. Bring that up like that. I think I need to add more gray to this. So make some more of my gray color here. Add a little more blue. That's looking better. And add that. Some more on the ear here. Some more on the tail. Make some more of that color up. Now this is a little darker gray. That would probably look good. Just put some down here. And then it's good to always stop and look and see where you need to maybe add some more. Okay, I think I need to work on the squirrel's ear here. And I'm going to make a mixture of both my browns here. Burnt umber, burnt sienna. Put a little highlight up here and then spread that paint around. I don't want it too close to there. You can always dab it and put it, spread it over here. Sometimes you need to let the paint kind of meld into each other to get the right combination. This is showing a little too much white, so let's do it a little smaller. And just go slow and careful and relax your grip on your brush. Just do a little bit at a time until you find it just right. Now I'm going to just take straight white and put some on here and spread it to kind of blend some of the colors. Put some here. Do some on the tail. That's looking pretty good. And sometimes when you do that, that will soften the color. That's looking better. And every once in a while, when I look at a squirrel, I see those some highlights. And I'm going to first dry this. Let's give it a good dry. So I'm going to add just a little highlight of the burnt sienna. Not much, just a touch. And a little bit here by the ear. Like that. And then I think the tail needs to be a little bushier. So I have some gray on here. And just going to extend it out a little bit. You have those wild, fun tails to flick around. Just like that. And maybe a little more down here. Need a little more paint on my brush. Need to add some more right down here. Like that. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Let's get another give it another good dry. Then I'll add the background. Okay. So for the background, the squirrel is sitting on a rock. And this is going to be a dark colored rock. So let's use a little bit of our burnt umber with our burnt sienna. I love these two browns together. They both are nice. And now I started with the color thick, and that's okay. I'm just going to dip my liner brush in water and spread it. And now I'm going to switch brush to my round with pointed tip brush. And dip that in water because I want to spread it to a bigger space, and this will work better than my liner. And just kind of make it just light like that, and then carry the line over here out a little further like that. Just the impression he's sitting on a rock. Now, let's give it a good dry. Now for the background behind the squirrel, I like to use the sap green. There's a forest behind the squirrel. And I'm going to use the mop brush. So go ahead and take your mop brush and wet it. And dip it straight into the sap green. And then just need a little more paint. Go around the squirrel. And we're not going to fill the whole background out because we're doing the vignette style. So just only go so far. Need a little more paint on that. It's a nice lush green forest behind this squirrel. And we need some over here. Yep. Didn't want that drop. Easy fix. Just dab it with your paint, with your paper towel. some here. Like that. And a little bit here. And then stop. Just going to need a little bit showing through the tail. Like that. Then stop and step back. So if you think that the first layer that you applied is too bright, you can carefully adjust to it. And there's two ways. If you dab it, that will take, I think, too much. But you can just kind of take your brush and absorb some of the paint and lift it up and then spread it like that. I mean, if I dab it, I'm going to lift up too much of the paint. And I don't want to do that. So my brush is damp. And just kind of gently spread and lift a lot of the paint. And you know, with watercolor, it's really a fun experiment to me. It's just, I get to play with water and paper and have fun, and don't be hard on yourself. So if it doesn't turn out exactly how you think, that's okay. That's okay. Now see, when I did that, I dabbed a little too much. But again, you can readjust it. I'm just taking my brush and adding a little more. Spread that a little bit like that. And sometimes, you know, you have to fiddle with it, but you can do it 2 or 3 times until it comes just right. I think that's looking pretty good. Then let's work on this area here, just slightly. Just use your brush and pick up some of that paint. And don't be in a rush. Take your time. Enjoy it. Have fun with color. That's how I think of it. With me, it's just so fun just seeing the colors and playing with them. Now that created a white spot, which I didn't want, but again, easy fix. Just add some paint on my brush, a little water will do the trick. That's better. And then when you find that you start doing too much, you'll learn your stopping point. And now is my stopping point. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Thanks for joining me today.